Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Ouais, c'est bon, c'est bon. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, it's a lovely day today on God's green earth. Absolutely beautiful day. Not a breath of wind, which makes a change. Hope you all had a really good Easter weekend. Spend time with the family, eat some good food. Hope you haven't overdosed on chocolate. I managed to not eat too much sugary crap. Went down the beach yesterday evening with the kids. We sort of promised them that if they tidied their room, we'd take them out for an ice cream. So that's pretty much the only sort of sugary shit that I ate. So yeah, did quite well there. Haven't put on any weight, which is good. So yeah, just talking today. I just want to talk today about the subject of kids, that sort of thing. Because collectively, my wife and I, we've got 3 kids between us. We've got 3 boys. My boy is 9 years old. My wife's two boys. They're 13 and 16. So yeah, we just finished the 2-week school holidays, Easter holidays. So kids are back to school today. Thank God for that. Because they get far too much time off in France, if you ask me. I mean, the French summer holiday, it's like about 9 weeks long. So it's a bit of a fucking head fuck for all the parents that have got full-time jobs, you know what I mean? There's not many jobs where you can have that much time off, so you got to try and come up with solutions to look after your kids, all that sort of stuff. So it can get quite expensive if you haven't got, like, you know, the grandparents that live nearby or anything, and then you're pretty fucked. You've got to pay for something, so not easy. So yeah, they're going back to school. Well, the 2 youngest ones are going back to school today. The oldest one, who's 16, he's going to Finland tomorrow. He's doing like a 3 weeks work experience course, because he's at college doing some sort of car mechanic type studies. So he's going to go to Finland for 3 weeks and go and work in a garage over there. He seems to be under the impression that it's just like one big holiday, but it's not. He's actually going there to learn something and work. So he might have a little bit of a shock when he gets there. So yeah. So we'll be down to just 2 kids in the house. Be a bit quieter, a bit more easy to deal with. Because they're pretty demanding, having 3 boys in those sort of age groups, fairly spread out. It can get quite tough at times. So yeah, I'm glad that school term started again. Gets them out of the house. So yeah, that's just the way it is, I guess, when you've got loads of kids and shit. I mean, there's a weird news story that my girlfriend told me about the other day. Because kids can be quite hard work these days because of mobile phones and computer games and all the screen time they've got and stuff like that. And I was just chatting to my missus the other day, and she said that she saw a news story on her phone in France. I'm not sure whether it was a boy or a girl that this happened to, but a 9-year-old committed suicide because parents took the mobile phone off them. So yeah, it just makes you think, you know, what the fuck's going on with the world. That sort of shit never used to happen before. But yeah, if you've got 9-year-olds that are killing themselves because, you know, the mobile phone's been taken away, there's something seriously wrong. So yeah, I mean, my girlfriend, my wife's 2 boys, they've both got mobile phones. And they're just on them 24 hours a day, which makes them quite hard work. You know, if you sort of ask them to do something, you've got to, like, say like 50 times. You've got to, you know, call their name 50 times until they look up from the screen. And it gets really fucking annoying. You know, if you ask them to unload the dishwasher or something, they kick off because you've taken them away from their sort of TikTok doom scrolling. So yeah, that does my head in. Actually, it does my head in. My boy, who's 9, hasn't got a mobile phone, and I'm not going to get him one either. Not for a fair few years yet, because I can't be doing with having a completely unresponsive kid, because they're constantly buried in shit and stuff like that on their phones. So give it a few years. I mean, like, kids. When I was younger, I never wanted to have kids. Especially in my early adult life. When I was sort of 17, I just turned 17, and I was at agricultural college in the south of England. Ended up going out with this girl there. It was a girl that lived in my village. So I sort of knew her anyway. But she was from like a really poor family. Really didn't have much. She had a bit of a nightmare mum as well that made her life hell. So anyway, I ended up going out with her, and because she was from a sort of, her family was sort of, quite a little bit backward, pretty traditional sort of hillbilly style. Her only sort of aim in life was to just find a man, and have kids. That's pretty much all she wanted to do. So yeah, I mean, I was going out with her. I was probably going out with her for about, I don't know, maybe 6 months, 8 months, and she was sort of going on about saying that how we should get married and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, fucking hell, I'm not even 18 yet. It's a bit much. But because I was sort of young and naive, I just sort of went along with it, just to sort of keep her happy. I shouldn't have done. I should have just said no and just, cut the relationship there. But I was a nice guy. Didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings or anything. So looking back on it, it was crazy. But yeah, ended up getting engaged. Had a massive engagement party. Her family was like huge. God knows how many cousins she had, all this sort of stuff. So yeah, had a massive engagement party, which is pretty funny. And then shortly after that, I ended up going into the Royal Navy, because there wasn't really much sort of job prospects where I lived, and I'd quit college after a year. Sort of realised, I wasn't on the right course, and the sort of course that I was doing, there was no money in it at the end of the day anyway. So I fucked that off and went into the Royal Navy, looking for a sort of proper career doing that. But I ended up coming out of the Royal Navy just before the sort of end of the basic training, just before graduation or whatever. I ended up smashing my knee to pieces on the assault course. I fell really badly going over a 9-foot wall. So yeah, I got medically discharged from the Royal Navy, and that pissed me off. I was gutted. So then I was sort of back to square one again, and looking for a job. Engaged to this girl. Luckily, I'd been sensible and hadn't got her pregnant or anything. Thank fuck for that. So I ended up applying. Well, I was just reading the paper one day and there was the job adverts in there. So I ended up applying for this job. It's like a sort of a car dealership, car showroom that was looking to hire a sort of trainee car salesman. So I phoned them up and spoke to the director, and he asked me what I'd been doing previously, and I said that I'd just come out of the Royal Navy. And he was like, oh brilliant, I used to be in the Royal Navy, did 22 years. Come down, we'll have a chat. So I did that, went down there. He hired me straight away. He's a good top lad, really good guy. He'd been in the Falklands War, that sort of stuff. Seen a lot of shit. So yeah, I was then doing this car sales job. And I don't know, it just sort of hit me one day that I didn't really want to be in this relationship that I was in anymore. You know, I was just about to turn 18 sort of thing, and I was tied down and all this sort of stuff, and I knew that it wasn't for me, so I then put an end to the relationship. I had to. My girlfriend then, she was not very happy, as you can imagine. Had to give all the engagement party presents back. There was fucking loads of presents. It was unreal, you know, especially because her family was so big or whatever. So yeah, I let her deal with that. She probably just kept them all, I don't know. So yeah, so I managed to sort of go all throughout my adult life without really being in a sort of major commitment type thing. Especially like when I moved to France, I was 21, and I was running a restaurant with my brother down in the south of France. So yeah, I didn't have time for having a family or any of that sort of shit. I was doing like 100-hour weeks, that sort of stuff. You know, I'd start the prep work in my kitchen at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and then we'd shut the restaurant at about 3 o'clock in the morning. We'd have a little 2-hour sort of break between the lunch and dinner service, but hardly any time off, and doing crazy hours. In the south of France, it's so hot. So a lot of people don't even go out to dinner until sort of 10 o'clock in the evening when it cools down a bit, so you end up sort of closing the restaurant in the early hours of the morning, so absolutely knackering. So when I was down there, I had a few girlfriends, but nothing really serious. I was just having fun in my youth, as you should do. I don't think anyone should have kids too young. You know, you're missing out on the best part of your life. You know, you need to be free. Not necessarily single, but I don't think you should have the responsibility of kids when you're in like your early 20s or something. Because especially, you know, blokes mature later than women. You know, it takes, for men, you know, you're not really mature until you're about 25. Obviously women they mature a lot younger, more intelligent, I guess. So yeah, that was the early part of my adult life. And then after sort of moving back up to Brittany in my sort of mid to late 20s or whatever, I spent a lot of my time single. Wasn't really fussed about having a girlfriend for a few years. Still didn't want kids at all. Mainly sort of like financial reason, really. And because I was single, living on my own, the little house that I was renting, that was like taking up most of my earnings. So, you know, I was caning my overdraft every month. So, you know, I could barely look after myself, let alone raise a family sort of thing. So yeah. And then when I was about sort of early 30s, maybe 32 or something like that, I don't know, something just sort of clicked, like the body clock or whatever it is. I just sort of had this feeling that, you know, I needed to have a kid sort of thing to try and, you know, pass on your knowledge a bit. I think it's a sort of fairly animal instinct, like, you know, caveman type thing, where the human race, you feel the need to sort of procreate or whatever and pass on your genes at the end of the day. So yeah, I was on dating websites, all that sort of crap, Badoo and what's the other one, Tinder, that sort of shit. Had a lot of fun with that to start with. Just one night stands, that sort of stuff. You know, completely wasn't really taking it seriously at all. I just wanted to have fun with it. And then after a while of just, you know, doing that, it gets pretty boring. you know, it's like that film 50 First Dates or whatever. You just get sick and tired of, you know, taking some girl out to a restaurant or some shit, and you've got to, you know, start all over again and with your story, and it just gets really tiresome. So I thought, you know, come on, sort it out. Try and find someone that's, you know, worth sticking with, type thing. So yeah, so I sort of changed the mindset and thought, right, try and find an actual girlfriend and not just a plaything for the evening. So yeah, I met this girl. She's from Paris, but living here in Brittany. And the story behind her was that her boyfriend had just left her, just completely done a runner. Just taken, all he'd done was he'd taken his dog and the flat screen TV, and he fucked off to the middle of France to go and be with some woman that he'd met on Facebook. Absolutely hilarious. So yeah, I ended up with this girl. You know, she was like trying to pick up the pieces of that or whatever. Pretty fucked up. But yeah, I sort of fell into this trap with her. That's where this is going. She told me that she couldn't have kids, and I was thinking, oh, fucking brilliant. I don't want kids, so that suits me fine. Turned out that was a load of shit. The reason why she couldn't have kids was because her boyfriend had some sort of genetic deformity where I don't think he had any testicles. I think he was born without testicles. So yeah, I mean, I found this out a few years later. I actually met the guy once, and he's quite tall. He's like, I don't know, he's probably about 6'3" or something. He's taller than me. He's got like a really small head, like stupidly small head, and he's got an insanely high voice. And I was thinking, I'm not surprised that you couldn't have kids with this guy. He's just got no balls. So yeah, I was just like, fucking brilliant. So yeah, I ended up getting trapped by this girl within about, I don't know, I was with her for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then she tells me that she's pregnant, and I was just like, oh fucking hell. So yeah, I mean, I was sort of between a rock and a hard place, you know. I didn't want kids, but then again, I sort of did. I was at that sort of point in my life, you know, I was in my early 30s. I was like, well, it's either now or never type thing. You know, if I fuck this off, probably won't really get another chance type thing to have kids. So I ended up just going along with it. Stayed with her. You know, didn't get an abortion or anything. Just sort of carried on with it, even though the relationship with her was just diabolical. I soon found out, like in very short space of time of being with her, that she was not the one for me type thing. So yeah, I was stuck with that. But you know, that was the trade-off for having a kid. So I just did it. But yeah, I knew that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life with her, that's for sure. So I sort of made a conscious decision in my head that I'd stay with her until my son started going to school. Luckily they go to school quite early in France, so you know, when they're, I don't know, nearly 3 type thing, just before they're 3 they go to school. So yeah, did that. My boys started going to school, and then I mean, she could see it coming anyway, because she knew that I didn't love her or anything, and I knew that she didn't love me. She was only with me because you know, it was a cheap place to live. You know, she didn't contribute anything to living in my house or anything like that. You know, she was just a complete sort of squatter. Very dirty person, wouldn't ever clean anything, didn't ever cook anything, didn't do any housework. So yeah, I was in a shit relationship. I was having to do literally everything, and do a full-time job, working on like split shift or whatever. And she was only working part-time. She's only ever worked part-time. You know, she works like 9 in the morning till midday. So yeah, I'd had enough of that. So she could see that the writing was on the wall for her. There was no surprise there. So yeah, so that helped my mental health, because I was in a really bad place when I was with her. I was just getting so depressed and so pissed off with her crap. Ended up becoming an alcoholic, smoking about 10 grams of weed every 2 or 3 days, just to try and numb the nightmare that I was in. So yeah, I just wanted to have a quick chat with you about that today, about kids and yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, obviously now I'm very grateful that I've got my son. Things have worked out all right. You know, got sort of 50-50 custody, that sort of shit. So that's all good. He's a good lad. And I suppose it was because it was a fairly amicable split, I guess, you know, with my ex-girlfriend or whatever. It's not like anybody was sleeping around or any of that sort of shit. So, you know, I can tolerate her a lot more now compared to when I was living with her. You know, I really couldn't deal with her when she was in my house. So yeah, I can put up with her in very short doses now, which is alright. So yeah, that's all worked out well. But yeah, would I sort of have kids again? I don't know. When you look at the state of the world now, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are great when you've got them. Can be hard work at times, but same with everybody. Everybody can be hard work at times. So yeah, I'll try not to bang on about that too much today. So yeah, thanks for watching again. Thanks for making it to the end, if you made it to the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. Let me know what your take on having kids is. Everyone's experience is different. So yeah, I'll let you crack on with your Tuesday. Hopefully, I hope the weather's as nice where you are as it is here. And I'll catch up with you in the next video. Okay, take care. Bye bye.